My name is Scarlett. For 18 years, Vertex Media Group in Chicago wasn't just a company I worked for, it was a place I helped build. My title was Head of Client Partnerships, but what I really did was cultivate trust. I wasn't about chasing fleeting trends or abstract analytics. My focus was on people, understanding their needs, celebrating their successes, navigating their challenges alongside them. I worked primarily with independent publishers, building relationships that span decades, not just contract cycles. While others in the industry chased volume, my division was the bedrock of Vertex, consistently bringing in a disproportionate share of revenue year after year. We accounted for over 60% of the company's earnings, primarily because our client retention rate was practically unheard of, hovering around 95%. We weren't just vendors, we were partners. Things started to shift subtly a little over a year ago. The whispers began when the board announced they were bringing in a new CEO, someone from outside the publishing world entirely. Lucas Miller arrived with a lot of fanfare, sleek presentations, and a vocabulary heavy with buzzwords: disruption, synergy, scaling, leveraging data lakes. He'd come from a background in data analytics, and it was clear from day one he saw our industry as a series of numbers and algorithms, not as a delicate ecosystem built on human connection and creative passion. I remember in one of his first all-hands meetings, he referred to novels as merely content units and seemed genuinely puzzled when someone asked about the emotional impact of a bestseller. The culture changed fast. Meetings that used to be dynamic discussions about client needs and market trends turned into tedious reviews of dashboards and projections that felt disconnected from reality. Lucas talked endlessly about optimizing touchpoints and digital transformation, concepts that felt utterly foreign to the deep-seated trust I'd built over countless dinners, phone calls, and emergency problem-solving sessions. I tried to adapt, to show him the data behind the relationships, but he just nodded dismissively, his eyes already scanning the next graph on his screen. He brought in a team of consultants who swarmed the office, analyzing workflows and spouting corporate jargon, often looking down their noses at anyone whose methods weren't data-driven. Signs that I was being actively sidelined started appearing months before the end. My budget for essential client visits, the kind of face-to-face interaction that cemented multi-million-dollar deals and decades-long partnerships, was slashed by half. Meanwhile, funds were poured into expensive new CRM software and digital ad campaigns that felt utterly impersonal in our line of work. Then came the real slap in the face. A key client relationship I'd managed personally for nearly 15 years, Prairie Books, was suddenly reassigned to a young woman straight out of college, a digital engagement specialist, who, while bright, had zero experience with the complexities of independent publishing or Prairie Books-specific needs. It was handled without a single conversation with me. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. It wasn't just disrespectful, it felt strategically undermining. I saw the confusion and worry growing on the faces of my team members, people I'd mentored for years, like Riley, my senior manager, whose usual confident demeanor was replaced by a constant furrowed brow. We'd exchange uneasy glances across the meeting table as Lucas droned on about metrics that missed the entire point of our business. The summons to the executive floor came on a Tuesday morning. Lucas's assistant, a nervous young man I barely knew, appeared at my office door looking deeply uncomfortable. Mr. Miller would like to see you in the main boardroom at 2, he stammered. I thanked him, my mind racing. I knew. Deep down I knew. I felt a strange mix of resignation and a fierce, quiet resolve. The boardroom had been completely renovated under Lucas's reign. All glass walls, minimalist furniture, and massive screens displaying complex data visualizations. Gone was the solid mahogany table where decades of deals had been hammered out with handshakes and shared coffee. 3 people were waiting: Lucas, the HR representative I expected, and a man I recognized as Lucas's newly hired transformation lead, a slick consultant who had barely spoken a word to anyone on my team but carried himself with an air of supreme, data-backed confidence. He gave me a look that clearly said, another piece of the old guard to clear out. Scarlett, thank you for coming, Lucas began, his voice smooth but devoid of warmth. His hands were clasped on the polished table, a barrier. Please sit down. I took the seat opposite him, my back straight. There was no point in pretending. He launched into the corporate script. Vertex Media Group is moving in a new digital-first direction, he explained, the buzzwords flowing freely. While your contributions over the years have been significant, particularly in building our legacy client base, your methods, while successful in the past, they're simply not scalable in the way we envision. We need leadership aligned with data visibility and automated processes. Your approach is legacy. Legacy. The word hung in the air like a judgment. 18 years of dedication, built on sweat, trust, and genuine care for our clients, dismissed as legacy. The transformation lead nodded sagely, a slight smirk playing on his lips. I felt a surge of anger, quickly followed by a wave of something heavier, grief. Grief for the company I had loved, for the relationships they were so carelessly discarding. It felt like watching someone deliberately smash something precious because they didn't understand its value. I listened quietly as he droned on about severance packages, non-compete clauses, and the need for a clean transition. He avoided eye contact for the most part, looking instead at the abstract shapes swirling on the large screen behind me. When he finished, I simply said, "I understand." I thanked him for the opportunity, a phrase that felt hollow and absurd. I shook his hand. His grip was surprisingly weak and walked out. 18 years, reduced to a 15-minute script in a glass room. Leaving the office felt surreal. I packed my personal items quickly, trying not to draw attention. A few colleagues offered hushed, worried glances, but there was no space for goodbyes or explanations. When I got to my car, I just sat there for a long moment, the key in the ignition, staring at my phone. And then it exploded. Messages and calls started pouring in almost immediately. News travels with terrifying speed in the publishing world. It's a tight-knit community, built on gossip and connection as much as contracts. My phone buzzed incessantly, texts, emails, missed calls from clients and industry contacts. Heard the news? What is happening? Are you okay? Can this be true? The sheer volume was overwhelming, but beneath the shock, I felt a wave of validation. My methods might have been legacy to Lucas, but they were vital to the people who actually mattered. The first call I answered was from Jackson at Prairie Books. He bypassed any polite lead-in. "Scarlett, what the hell is going on over there?" he demanded, his voice tight with frustration. "They're going in a new direction, Jackson," I replied, the corporate line feeling like ash in my mouth. "New direction," he scoffed. "They just fired the person who was their direction for half the industry. Do they even understand that?" His frustration was palpable. "I had a call with my new digital account manager yesterday," he continued, the sarcasm heavy in his voice. "Some kid named Tyler. Spent 40 minutes showing me charts and engagement metrics. Not once did he ask about our fall catalog or the massive investment we made in that new historical fiction line, the one I told you was make or break for us this year. He just kept talking about optimizing our digital footprint. He had absolutely no clue about our actual business, our history, or what makes us tick. It was a complete waste of time." Jackson's anger was less about my firing and more about the tangible negative impact on his business. He emphasized their loyalty was to her. I closed my eyes, a weariness settling deep in my bones. "They'll figure it out, Jackson," I said, though I didn't believe it. "No, they won't," he countered sharply. "Because people like that don't bother to figure anything out. They just impose a system and expect the world to conform. It's infuriating." He paused, his tone softening slightly. "Look, Scarlett, you are Vertex to us. Always have been. What are you going to do? Because honestly, if you're not there, I'm not sure we are. We're already exploring our options with other partners." After hanging up with Jackson, I took a deep breath. Another call came in, this time from Layla at Northern Lights Publishing, another major client and a friend built over 15 years of working together. Her message was similar: shock, disbelief, and a clear statement of loyalty. "It's their loss, Scarlett," Layla said firmly. "A huge, idiotic loss. Lucas Miller clearly has no idea what makes this industry run. He's focused on the wrong things. When you figure out what's next, you call me. Northern Lights needs partners who understand books and people, not just data streams. We're already looking at other media groups ourselves." By the end of the day, I had heard from over a dozen key clients, representing well over 40% of Vertex's annual revenue. The message was unanimous. Their relationship was with me, not the abstract entity called Vertex Media Group. They were already actively considering leaving. Sitting in my backyard as the Chicago evening cooled, a glass of bourbon in hand, the seed of an idea began to sprout. They saw my relationship-focused approach as outdated, a liability. They prioritized data and systems over human connection. But every call I'd received proved that the value wasn't in the algorithms. It was in the trust, the understanding, the personal history. What if the very thing Lucas Miller dismissed as legacy was the industry's true enduring asset? What if my greatest strength, in their eyes a weakness, was the foundation for something new? It wasn't about getting back at Vertex. It was about creating a space where the values that actually mattered could thrive. I pulled out my phone and called David Chen, my attorney. "David," I said, "I think I just got the worst news of my life." I explained what happened and the non-compete clause, which felt absurdly restrictive given the circumstances. His initial surprise faded into focused legal analysis. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in David's downtown office. He slid the non-compete document across his desk. "As suspected," he said, "it's aggressively broad, overly long, and attempts to restrict the use of general industry knowledge and relationships built over 2 decades. In court, it's likely unenforceable." A knot I hadn't realized was there loosened slightly. "So I could just start my own thing?" "You could," David confirmed with a nod. "But," he held up a finger, "they'll likely still sue you if you work with any of their current clients. Even if you win, they can make the process incredibly expensive and painful. Vertex has deep pockets, and Lucas Miller doesn't strike me as someone who takes perceived threats lightly. They could use litigation as a weapon to slow you down, drain your resources, and scare off potential partners." I considered this. He was right. A lawsuit, even a losing one for them, could cripple a new venture before it even started. "Okay," I said, thinking aloud, "what if I don't solicit their clients directly? What if I just become available? Create a structure that they could choose to join? Something they opt into because it serves their needs better." I was already thinking past simply finding a new job or becoming a consultant. David smiled slowly. "Now, that is a very different legal conversation. A much stronger position. You're not soliciting their clients to leave them and come work for you in direct competition using their proprietary information. You're creating a new marketplace, a new model that publishers freely elect to be a part of." The next day, the initial paperwork for Horizon Collective was filed. No marketing. No website yet, just a legal entity capable of accepting payments and providing services. It was a quiet, strategic first step, taken while I planned the larger vision. During this time, I even received a call from James, a recruiter, offering a high-level executive position at a different, reputable firm. It was a good offer, a stable path, and I thanked him, telling him I was exploring my options. It felt good knowing there were other doors open. But my focus was already on building my own. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Jackson from Prairie Books. "Heard you set up shop," he said, skipping any preamble. "News travels fast," I replied, a smile touching my lips. "In this business? Like wildfire, Scarlett. Listen, we're deep into planning our winter catalog strategy. Vertex's new team is trying to push us towards some generic online marketplace model based on their analytics, but my gut and, frankly, my sales numbers tell me we need to double down on what works, building direct connections with booksellers and readers who care. I need someone who understands both the art and the commerce of publishing, someone who gets us. Is this Horizon Collective something that could help?" He made a generous offer for strategic guidance. It was carefully worded to avoid direct competition with specific Vertex services. Still, I hesitated slightly. "I'm still figuring out my next steps, Jackson. Horizon Collective is more than just me as a consultant." "Don't figure too long," he said urgently. "We're making crucial decisions next week. We need clarity. We're on the verge of walking away from Vertex entirely." After his call, my phone rang again. It was Riley, my former senior manager, her voice hushed and anxious. "Scarlett, can we meet?" "Not at the office. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere away from everything." Her anxiety was palpable even over the phone. We met at a small, anonymous coffee shop far from downtown. Riley looked even more stressed than I had last seen her, constantly glancing over her shoulder as if expecting Lucas to appear. "It's bad, Scarlett," she said, sinking into a chair opposite me. "Worse than you think. Lucas promoted me to your position, but it's a joke. I have the title, but zero authority. All the real decisions are coming from his new team, the Digital Transformation Task Force, they call themselves. They're systematically dismantling everything you built. They've cut budgets for essential things, reorganized teams without any logic, and created absolute chaos." My stomach twisted. I figured as much. "No, you don't understand the scale," she insisted, leaning in. "They've reassigned all your major accounts to the digital team. Jackson, Layla, everyone. They've implemented this mandatory, complex CRM system that none of the older sales reps can figure out. It's designed for tracking clicks, not nurturing relationships. People are spending more time trying to input data than actually talking to clients. 3 people in sales have quit already, completely demoralized. And it's not just sales. Support is overwhelmed. Operations is a mess. It's a sinking ship." She paused, her voice softening. "Even Chloe, you know how much she looked up to you. She came to me in tears last week. She's talking about quitting too. She feels completely lost and unvalued without your guidance." Hearing about Chloe reinforced the human cost of Lucas's abstract approach. "And the clients?" Riley glanced around again before speaking, almost whispering. "They're furious. Layla at Northern Lights is threatening to walk. Jackson isn't returning any of Lucas's calls. Our biggest accounts are completely alienated. The quarterly projections, they're catastrophic. Lucas is trying to spin it as expected transition turbulence, but everyone inside knows the truth. The board is starting to ask serious questions." She hesitated, her eyes wide with worry. "And they're watching you. Lucas and his legal team had a meeting about your non-compete yesterday. They're seriously concerned you're going to poach clients. They're looking for any excuse to hit you with a lawsuit." Now I understood the paranoia. She was risking her job, her career, everything, just to warn me. "Thank you, Riley, for telling me this. I know this is dangerous for you." She nodded, then slid a folded envelope across the table. "This is updated," she said quietly. "Client contact list. Personal emails, cell numbers. It's everything. Everyone Lucas reassigned." Her hand trembled slightly as she pushed it towards me. I had to get it to you. I trust you to know what to do. I just can't stand by and watch this happen." She stood up quickly. "I didn't give you this, and we never met today. Understand?" With that, she hurried out of the coffee shop, leaving me alone with the envelope. I sat there for a long time, the envelope heavy in my hand. Inside were the direct lines to every client who had trusted me, every relationship I'd built. Using it would be the easiest path, the fastest way to get back on my feet and hit Vertex where it hurt. It would give me immediate leverage. But it would be exactly what Lucas and Vertex feared, validating their suspicions and giving them clear grounds for a lawsuit against me, and potentially against Riley too. It was a trap. A tempting, effective trap. But it wasn't my way. It wouldn't be building something new. It would be reacting to the old, fueled by resentment. It would put Riley at risk. When I finally left the coffee shop, the envelope remained on the table, untouched. My path had to be cleaner, smarter. A month crawled by. I hadn't contacted a single Vertex client, despite several calls and emails reaching out to me directly, asking for help. I politely deflected, citing professional considerations while Horizon Collective was formally established, and I networked strategically with publishers and industry contacts outside of Vertex's immediate orbit, independent presses, niche media companies, and industry service providers who shared my values but weren't previously Vertex clients. This work felt meaningful, building a foundation without triggering a corporate war. Then came the unexpected invitation. Robert Sterling, chairman of the Vertex Media Group board, requested a private meeting at his club downtown. Curiosity outweighed caution, and I accepted. I was prepared. The Indianapolis Gentlemen's Association was all dark wood, hushed voices, and old money. Robert Sterling, silver-haired and impeccably dressed, waited in a private room. With him was Grace, another board member I knew by reputation, sharp, financially focused, and known for her skepticism towards anything not purely quantitative. Her gaze was assessing, guarded. "Thank you for coming, Scarlett," Robert said, gesturing to a chair. "I imagine you know why I wanted to meet." "The quarterly reports, I presume," I replied calmly, taking the seat. Robert sighed, looking weary. "Among other things. Things at Vertex are not going as planned." He laid out the numbers. They were worse than even Riley had suggested, though hearing them from the board chairman's mouth was stark. Revenue was down drastically, client retention had cratered, and internal morale was, in his words, a significant concern. He attributed it directly to the failure of Lucas's digital-first strategy to resonate with their core publishing clientele. Grace sat quietly, observing me with a calculating gaze, offering minimal input. "Publishing is a relationship business, Mr. Sterling," I said, stating the obvious. "It always has been." "So we are rapidly learning," Robert admitted. He leaned forward. "The board is deeply concerned about Mr. Miller's leadership. His approach, while perhaps effective in other sectors, has proven incompatible with the unique dynamics of Vertex's market. There's been a significant loss of client trust." "Why are you telling me this?" I knew why, but I wanted to hear them say it. "Because," he said, getting to the point, "we would like you to come back to Vertex. In a new role. President of Client Operations. You would report directly to the board and effectively oversee all client-facing divisions, including sales and partnerships." I stared at him, processing the offer. It was the ultimate vindication, the corporate mea culpa. Grace cleared her throat. "Ms. Scarlett," she said, her voice cool, "while your past contributions are noted, the scale of the current problem is immense. We would need assurance that your methods can effectively address this level of damage and that your loyalties remain with the company, not with the clients you've maintained contact with. Not with the clients who followed me out the door because your current leadership alienated them." I finished for her, my voice even, meeting her gaze directly. Robert interjected, cutting off Grace. "The offer is generous, Scarlett. A significant increase on your previous salary, full autonomy to rebuild your team, and the board's full backing." He was trying to smooth over Grace's pointed comment. The pieces clicked into place. "This isn't just about the quarterly numbers, is it?" I asked, looking from Robert to Grace. "This has been building. You saw the direction things were going under Lucas, didn't you? And you let it happen." Robert's facade cracked slightly. "Mr. Miller's hiring and some of his subsequent decisions, including your departure, were pushed through without full board consensus at the time," he admitted reluctantly. "There was a strong push for modernization after William passed. We deferred, perhaps unwisely. Lucas acted more unilaterally than anticipated on staffing and strategy implementation. He essentially admitted they'd been outmaneuvered by their own CEO." I understood. They'd wanted transformation, but were too disconnected or too timid to understand what that actually meant in their business, or to rein in Lucas when he started destroying their most valuable asset, trust. They wanted me back not because they suddenly believed in the power of relationships, but because my network was the fastest way to stop the bleeding and potentially salvage their investment. They were offering me a high price for my Rolodex, for my influence, for my ability to clean up the mess they allowed to happen. And implicitly, they wanted me to eventually be the one to usher Lucas out. It felt like being asked to patch a sinking ship I'd just safely disembarked from. "I need some time to consider," I said, the standard corporate response masking a heart that already knew the answer. This wasn't my fight anymore. "Of course," Robert said, though his eyes held a silent urgency. "But please don't take too long. The situation is deteriorating rapidly." Driving home, the setting sun casting long shadows, the offer replayed in my mind. Rejoining Vertex felt like stepping back into a burning building to grab something I no longer needed. They didn't understand the core problem. They just wanted a quick fix. They wanted to buy my relationships, not earn them back. The realization wasn't bitter. It was clarifying. It solidified my conviction about what I needed to build instead. My focus wasn't on fixing their past mistakes, but on building a future based on the values they had discarded. The next morning, I sent Robert Sterling a brief, polite email declining his offer. I didn't explain why, just stated that I was pursuing a different path. He responded within minutes, upping the financial package significantly and stressing the urgency. I didn't reply. My focus was elsewhere. I made 3 calls. The first was to Jackson at Prairie Books. Jackson, I said, I'm ready to talk about working together. But I have a slightly different idea. I'm listening, he said instantly. I'm not starting a traditional consulting firm to work for individual clients. Instead, I'm forming a collective. A consortium of independent publishers who believe in the power of collaboration, shared resources, and prioritizing genuine relationships over abstract metrics. No corporate bureaucracy, no long-term, one-sided contracts. Just publishers helping publishers, with me facilitating the connections and providing strategic guidance. Think of it as a cooperative ecosystem built on mutual benefit and understanding. Silence on the line. Then, how many others have you pitched this to? Just you, I said. You're the first call. Because I was your biggest client? Because I trust your judgment, I corrected. And because I know you understand the core of this business. If you think this model is viable, something that could genuinely benefit publishers like you, then I'll move forward. If not, I'll reconsider. Jackson didn't hesitate this time. I'm in, Scarlett. This sounds exactly like what we need. A partner who gets it. And I can think of at least 5 others right now who would jump at this. My second call was to Layla at Northern Lights Publishing. She not only loved the consortium idea, but immediately saw its potential for innovation. Scarlett, this is it, she exclaimed. This is what we've been missing. The collective bargaining power, the shared marketing insights, and we could even develop a shared digital platform just for members, something tailored to our needs, for collaboration and resource sharing, not some generic corporate system forced on us. Her enthusiasm was infectious. The third call was to David Chen. I walked him through the Horizon Collective model. They're not working for Vertex's clients anymore, I explained. Vertex's former clients are joining a new entity. It's a critical distinction, right? They're choosing to be part of something new, based on shared values. Precisely, David confirmed, smiling. You're not soliciting their clients to switch providers to you. You're creating a new community that these publishers are choosing to join based on its unique value proposition and the value you bring as a facilitator. It's a subtle, but legally significant difference. It makes their non-compete even weaker. They might still posture, but any legal challenge would be difficult for them. Within 2 weeks, the Horizon Collective had 7 founding members, all prominent independent publishers who had either already left Vertex or were planning to as soon as contracts allowed. Each contributed a modest fee to an operational fund. This wasn't about high salaries or fancy offices. It was about pooling resources to empower independent voices and build a resilient network. Anna, from a small but respected university press that had felt completely ignored and misunderstood by Vertex's new focus, joined the collective. Her perspective was invaluable, highlighting how the collective could support niche and academic publishers as well, not just commercial ones, offering them resources and a voice they lacked alone. We rented a humble, functional office space in a vibrant neighborhood, far from the corporate towers downtown. It was open-plan, designed for collaboration, with plenty of shared spaces for meetings and brainstorming, not hierarchy. I hired 2 staff members, a bright recent college graduate who understood digital tools but, more importantly, understood people and communication, and a retired publishing operations veteran who missed the buzz and wanted to contribute his wisdom part-time. Word continued to spread. By the end of the first month, 3 more publishers had joined. By the end of the second, we were already looking for a larger space. We didn't need aggressive sales tactics or expensive marketing. Publishers were drawn to us because they saw our members succeeding. They heard about collective deals on printing or distribution they couldn't get alone, about shared marketing campaigns that reach new readers, and most importantly, about a partner who actually listened and understood their business, not just their data points. One early win involved negotiating a significant discount on shipping rates across the board for all members by pooling our volume, something individual publishers could never achieve. This tangible benefit, shared quickly through the network, generated incredible buzz. As Horizon Collective thrived, the reports from Vertex grew increasingly dire. Riley called me one evening in late September. "They know, Scarlett," she said, her voice strained. "They know what you're building. Lucas is furious. He's talking to legal again, trying to find a way to shut you down." "David's prepared for them," I said calmly. "We haven't violated anything." "That won't stop them from trying to bury you in legal fees," she replied. "There's a board meeting tomorrow. Quarterly results. It's going to be brutal." She paused. "Lucas's team even tried to float some rumors online last week, calling the collective a refuge for legacy publishers unwilling to innovate, but it just made them look desperate and out of touch. No one's buying it. It actually sent a couple more publishers your way." "That's not my concern anymore, Riley," I said. "I know," she sighed. "But I wanted you to know. And I wanted to ask something." Her voice dropped. "Is there room for one more at Horizon Collective? I can't do this anymore, Scarlett. I've reached my breaking point here. It's toxic, it's failing, and everything you built is being destroyed. I want to be part of something real again." A genuine smile spread across my face. "Come by the office tomorrow, Riley. We'll talk." There's absolutely room. Everything was unfolding, not out of a desire for revenge, but because I understood the fundamental truth of this industry. Relationships matter, and they are not legacy. Good people like Riley wanted to be where those values were honored. The Vertex Media Group quarterly earnings call in October was a public spectacle. The numbers were devastating: a 45% drop in revenue year over year, a 17% stock price plunge in a single day. I didn't listen. I was in a strategy session with 15 Horizon Collective members planning our approach to an upcoming industry conference. But Jackson texted me the highlights. Lucas attempting to blame unforeseen market disruptions and transitional challenges, utterly failing to mention the mass exodus of key clients or the internal dysfunction. Later that afternoon, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Scarlett?" a woman's voice asked, crisp and formal. "It is. This is Patricia Harrington from the Vertex Media Group Board of Directors." "Yes, Ms. Harrington? I'm calling to inform you that the board has voted to formally waive your non-compete agreement, effective immediately." It was a meaningless gesture now. A day late and a dollar short, but noted. "We have also authorized our legal team to prepare a cease and desist order regarding what we perceive as interference with our remaining client relationships." The threat felt hollow. I waited, letting the silence hang in the air. "Do you have any response, Ms. Scarlett?" she finally prompted, her tone expectant. "Just one question," I said. "Have any of you on the board actually spoken to the clients who left? Not through account managers or satisfaction surveys. Actually sat down with Jackson at Prairie Books, or Layla at Northern Lights, or any of the others and asked them why they left?" "That is not relevant to." "It's the only thing that's relevant," I interrupted, firmly but calmly. "They didn't leave because I started something new, Ms. Harrington. They left because Vertex stopped valuing what mattered to them. They left because you let a CEO dismantle 18 years of trust in pursuit of metrics that don't apply to your business. You focused on data points instead of people points." There was a long silence on the line. "The board meeting is still in session," she said finally, her voice cooler, strained. "Perhaps you would care to join us and explain your perspective directly?" "I appreciate the invitation," I said, a genuine smile in my voice, "but I'm in the middle of my own meeting with 28 publishers who've chosen a different path. We're quite busy building our future." She was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. "I see," she said, her voice barely a whisper before she hung up. The cease and desist order never arrived. 3 days later, the business section of the Chicago Tribune ran the headline, "Vertex Media Group CEO Lucas Miller steps down amidst financial turmoil." 6 months after launching Horizon Collective, we moved into a spacious, renovated warehouse in a thriving, creative neighborhood. We now had 35 member publishers, with a growing waiting list. Our reach had expanded beyond Illinois, encompassing independent and mid-sized publishers across the Midwest. The industry had noticed. We were featured in Publishers Weekly and the New York Times business section. One headline called it the relationship revolution in publishing. I hadn't set out to start a revolution. I just wanted to preserve what I knew worked. But sometimes, the old ways become revolutionary again when people remember their true value. Robert Sterling called one Tuesday morning. Vertex had a new CEO, promoted from within, someone who had been with the company for decades and understood the old ways, now desperately trying to fix what had been broken. Scarlett, Robert began without preamble, we'd like to discuss the possibility of Vertex Media Group joining your collective. I smiled to myself. That's not how it works, Robert. We're structured for independent publishers. We're not equipped to integrate an entity of Vertex's size and complexity. Our model is built on a different foundation. Perhaps a partnership arrangement then, he pressed. I'll bring it to our leadership council, I told him, knowing what the answer would be. The publishers who joined Horizon Collective had done so precisely to escape the corporate mindset and bureaucracy that Vertex represented. A partnership would dilute the very essence of what we had built, a community of independent voices supporting each other. After hanging up, I walked through our open office space. No executive suite for me. My desk was simply one among the others, situated in the middle of the vibrant space. That's where I needed to be, amidst the conversations, the planning sessions, the shared challenges and triumphs that kept us connected to what truly mattered. Riley looked up from her workstation, a genuine smile on her face. She was thriving here, her anxiety replaced by purpose. Everything okay? Just fine, I nodded. Vertex wants to join the collective. She laughed, a light, happy sound that had been absent for months. Talk about coming full circle. Later that afternoon, I drove to a quiet spot overlooking Lake Michigan, a place I used to go when problems at Vertex seemed overwhelming. But today, there were no overwhelming problems. Just a quiet sense of satisfaction. I had been discarded, my life's work dismissed as legacy. But being fired had forced me to build something more authentic, something that truly valued the human connections that were the lifeblood of our industry. It wasn't about revenge. It was about building a future based on trust, collaboration, and the simple, enduring power of people who had earned each other's loyalty. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to realize what you truly had and what you are truly capable of building.